Let's talk about why I ever implanted in the first place. I mean, obviously, you look at my chest, there's not, they're not huge, there are little baby A's in there, but to be honest, I really was okay with my breast size for my whole life. Even when I got them implanted, it wasn't that I got them implanted because I was like, wow, I really hate what I look like. I just kind of honestly was peer pressured into it. I had just gotten into the bodybuilding space and I was thinking that I was going to take my career to the top in bodybuilding and shows and the whole competing thing. And I thought that I had to look a certain way in my breast area in order to compete with the other girls, to look aesthetically balanced because this was so flat. There was no, symmetry. It looked weird. And so, people over time just kept telling me like, "Oh, you should get implants. You should get implants. You should get implants." And with the finally I was like, "All right, I guess I'll get implants, and I'm gonna be competing and I'm going to take it wherever, as high as I can take it. I guess I want to be able to, be in the running with the other girls." And so for me, I really truly just went into it like, sure, why not? Okay, let's do it. And back then there wasn't a lot of conversation. It was 7 years ago. So it's 2025. So I got mine in 2015, 16, 17, like beginning of 17, like January of 2017. So there wasn't a lot of conversation around, actually, there wasn't any conversation around BII or the fact that they were dangerous or the fact that they were made of harmful chemicals. Like that conversation did not exist. And it was just normal. Like, oh yeah, if you don't like what you look like, then you get implants. Like that was it. That was the whole conversation. If you don't like it, put some implants there, get some plastic surgery. And so it was interesting because if I had known, if there had been a conversation around how dangerous it was and the chemicals that were in them and what could happen, I probably would have had a different conversation with myself or even made a different decision. But because of that, because there was no education around it back then, people definitely weren't talking about it online, not at a mass scale like there is now. There wasn't support groups and people's whole pages dedicated to it. And so there was just, yeah, it's just a different world back then, And so social media has made it to where there's information travels faster and people have more information, and that's great. But, my implant story was me resisting it for a long time and then finally saying, F it, let's go. And so I didn't even know what size I wanted. The day that I went in, I just told the surgeon, he's like, "Did you pick?" And I was like, "Well, you know, you decide." And so he was like, "All right, this is what I think." And he put him in and that was it. And I got him in and post surgery, I thought that I should have gotten them bigger. And I was like, oh, this was so dumb. I should have gotten them bigger. And they ended up being big. Like I really actually didn't even realize how kind of silly, I guess, or off they looked in proportion to the rest of my body until now that they're out. I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, they were that big. Like that's what I look like. Like I didn't even realize it. The body dysmorphia is so real. Like just the inability to see your body the way that it actually is so real. Because now that I look at it, I'm like, wow, like they looked huge for my body, like very just unnatural, And so that's my implant story. It's really, really just the fact that, my mom even had implants. And when my mom was young, when I was young and I saw my mom get her implants, I was so mad at her that I didn't even want to talk to her. I mean, I was sobbing. I was so mad. I was like, "I'm so mad you did this. Why did you do this?" And I was devastated. And then I told myself I was never going to get implants. And she was like, "No, I think you're going to want implants. You don't have any boobs." And I was like, "I'm cool with that. Like, I don't want them." And then, just got into the space of bodybuilding and weightlifting and competing and thought, "Oh, okay, I guess if everyone's saying I need them, sure, okay, I'll do it." And so just goes to show you that trusting your inner space, trusting that inner voice, that intuition that speaks to you, and I didn't have a good relationship with my intuition back then. I didn't have a good relationship with myself really even back then compared to what I do now. And so that voice was it was easy to to not listen to that voice. Now that voice is I'm very connected to my intuition, and I wish that for everybody that watches this is to connect with that voice, connect with the intuition, connect with your truth. And that way you can always be connected to your clarity in the midst of all the noise. And I was not connected to my clarity in the midst of the noise, hence why this happened. But I regret nothing, even though you'll hear in my pre-explant story video why I ended up explanting and the intensity that I went through to get to that point of explanting. But even through everything that I went through, I would not say that I regret anything because now here we are. I'm able to communicate it and talk about it and be an advocate for explanting and raise awareness around this. And so, would that have ever happened without this experience? It wouldn't have. So, how could I say that I regret it when my journey and my story I know is going to help a lot of women because I am dedicated and committed to coming and speaking the truth and connecting with women and helping to help women connect back to their clarity and the self-love for their body, whether their breast size is, it doesn't matter what their breasts look like, that your love with yourself, your connection with yourself does not have to do with what your breasts look like. And I am here to tell that story and to help women realize that. So thanks for being here today, and I'll see you in another video.